Okay, so we've covered all of the kind of the problems and the frameworks to help us diagnose what could reality be, where are we at, and what are the different levels and how do we interact with them. Now let's talk about zones of influence, because this is one of the concepts that I've been working on for a long time. And it kind of, it'll help us bring that locus of control back internal versus looking out at the world and feeling like helpless because it's chaotic and how can I possibly change anything? I don't know what to do. What we want to do is we want to focus on what we can actually do in our life, and I think everybody actually has a huge role to play. So let's just kind of walk through this. So at the very beginning stage, you have your mental space, your thoughts and your emotions. And you really need to master that as the very kind of beginning level of your spiritual warfare, your physical impact, your whatever you want to call it, right? If you want to have influence on the world or on even your own life, you need to master your own mind. And so that comes down to, could be as simple as just positive self-talk. Stop beating yourself up. Have a more positive outlook on life. Practice gratitude, whatever the case may be. That is kind of the core starting spot that you're going to want to master. And the reason is because once you master that, you can go on to the physical realm. Now, the way to think about this is if you have a strong mind, then you can convince yourself to maybe develop a new set of habits, like brushing your teeth, doing push-ups, eating better, whatever the case may be. That strong mental practice will translate then into a stronger body. If you're eating healthy or healthier, or if you're working out more often, your body is going to get stronger. You're going to have more energy. You're going to have more strength. And, if you go to sleep on time, same thing, right? So those mental disciplines translate into a physical reality that actually gives you more energy. Once you have more energy and physical ability, you can actually then take those raw resources and expend them to transform your external environment. So, if you're stronger, you'll be able to, lift heavy objects, move things around. If you develop skills and have energy, you can go maybe decorate or beautify do some landscaping, whatever the case may be. You can start transforming the environment right around you in your own little place. Jordan Peterson's got a great thing he says, which is clean your room. Just start by cleaning your room every day and develop the discipline and the energy to actually just get your room organized. And as you do that, you will have mastered that one little space. And so as you master a space, then you can master the next space and the next space. And that will start this cascading effect where you are developing power and the ability to transform your environment. All right, so once you've started to transform your environment, and I should say your physical appearance as well is transforming, then you'll be able to it'll be much easier to start having social interactions with people. So they may come into contact, you might look better, and so it's easier to start conversations, or they might bump into, say you've decorated your yard, it'll be easier to start a conversation. Whatever the case may be, as you start to interact socially, your social skills will develop, and you will be able to start building relationships and then collaborating with people. So you can invest into those people and they will then invest back into your life, and you can partner with them to go and achieve bigger and better things than you could do by yourself. So this is kind of, you can see that this is starting to cascade now and really build some momentum. Once you've developed relationships and you've got a strong small group and you guys are out and active and doing things, you can actually just a single group like that can actually start to transform your community. So this could be your church, and maybe you do like a neighborhood welfare kind of program or something along those lines where you go and help other people pick up their yard or feed homeless people or whatever the case may be. You start giving back to the community, and this in turn starts to build a stronger community. Your city becomes stronger because of this. And then we go to the next level, which is local. A very powerful city in a region can start to attract commerce and get tourists in. You can start having an effect on neighboring cities, right? For example, just imagine a single person that comes up with a great business idea and they start to build this business and it's successful. They recruit good people into their business. They get the city ordinance to help them. They give back to the city so everybody likes them in the city, and they they grow and they can hire 100 employees and then 500 and then 1,000 employees, and pretty soon they're pulling in people from the surrounding neighborhood or surrounding communities, right? You can kind of see how this can actually escalate in a pretty practical way. Communities then, of course, can have a big impact on your state. So a state could be, a state is basically comprised of multiple different counties or regional areas. And so that, you can just see how it cascades. And even as an individual person, like, you could then run for office. You could become the mayor of a city, or you could run for a county seat or something along those lines. You could even run for a governorship at some point, or be part of the state legislature, whatever the case may be. You can start to, even as an individual, start to really expand your impact on the world. States then, of course, translate into strong nations. A nation that's comprised of multiple strong states is very powerful. So you can think about California in its heyday, Texas, New York. There's these massive contributors, at least in GDP, although then again, we're not talking about how much they take back. I'm actually not sure what the best states are, possibly even like North Dakota with the oil. I'm not sure what it is, but for sure, strong states can contribute into a stronger nation. And so you can, this thing just keeps ballooning up. And of course, nations can build powerful regions. So, America is a great example of this, where we provide military for, kind of defense contractors for all kinds of nations all over the place. And we really lend them our power in a certain sense, and they pay us for it, but they're stronger because of it, as long as everybody's playing fair, right? That's just one example. Trade, there's all kinds of things like that. So at this point, we're really at a very high level. And of course, you've got a planetary thing. So a planet with a bunch of peaceful, cooperative nations that are all working together on scientific projects, trying to innovate and tackle new challenges for humanity and push our way into the stars. That's an amazing planet, as opposed to a planet that's divided and bickering and fighting and torn apart by religions and not wanting to share technology. And, it's just, there's going to be a dramatic difference there. All right, then we have multiplanetary. So a strong planet, if you do achieve that strong planet, then you can start to go and colonize other planets, which is, think about Elon Musk with the mission to Mars, right? Think about the mission to the moon. Think about what we could do if we were all collected and united behind a certain vision. We could really push our way into really kind of an unlimited potential at that point. And this is all, we're still kind of like all on this physical dimensionality, right? So I remember thinking about this multiplanetary thing. I remember reading as a kid this book called Heaven by Randy Alcorn. And he went through the entire Bible and pulled out every verse that was related to heaven or the afterlife. And, up until I read that, I always thought heaven was really boring and lame, because I was assuming that, you die and then you go up and you sit on a cloud and play a harp and sing hymns and memorize Bible, like, very boring. What's the point of all that? Well, when I read his material, it was not that way at all. It actually sounded like such an exciting adventure. There was teleportation, and you had no pain, no weakness, no sickness, a perfect body, perfect mind, and then you were out conquering the stars, colonizing planets. I mean, it was really just probably the coolest vision that I've ever heard. And actually, I really got behind that. I thought, wow, this is actually what I want. So that is kind of the multiplanetary dream, and it's embedded deeply into our religions. It's embedded deeply into, I think, our core identity as a planet. All right, and then we get into multidimensional. So this is where it starts getting a little bit interesting. So in some of the videos already, we've talked about this possibility, and it seems actually fairly likely that there is multidimensional entities here right now.
So, in plain sight, reptilian gods, it's all over the place. The oldest form of human worship is the worship of the snake or the reptile or the serpent. It goes back at least 70,000 years in Africa, Botswana, the Salido Hills, where the San people, better known as the Bushmen, say that the great python came with a bag of eggs to create humanity. I would say actually to manipulate humanity that existed at that time. This is a guy called Reverend John Bathurst Dean. I won't go through it because we've got so much to get through, and I've been through this before. He wrote a book called Worship of the Serpent in 1933. It was a work on the study of worship of the serpent and the snake and the reptile imagery all over the world. It was massive. And he concludes that what follows after his research and all that is that the most ancient account respecting the cause and nature of the seduction of humanity must be the one from which all the rest are derived, which represent the victorious serpent, victorious over man in a state of innocence and subduing his soul in a state of what he would call sin into the most abject veneration and adoration of himself. And he's talking there about the whole concept, wherever he looked, of the fall of man was always related to some serpent figure, not just in Christianity, all over the world. Now, you can find serpent figures. This is a serpent, female and baby. This was one of the finds in the area now known as Iraq, Sumer, Babylon, etc. And it was the Ubaid people, which preceded Sumer a long, long time ago, BC. And you can see in the way they portrayed the pharaohs in Egypt, the cobra, as Crater Mutwa pointed out to me, is a massive symbol of this, what I would call now archontic race, this reptilian race that can take a reptilian form. There's the cobra head on the pharaoh. There's the belly of the cobra. There's the cobra coming out of what? The third eye. The Druids used to worship a serpent god called Hu. And this is the Nagas, a reptilian race in Asia that they said could take either human or reptilian form. Or there's the Mayan people. They worship the serpent god Kukulkan. And the folklore describes, of course, dragons and serpents. Then you've got the fairy stories of the prince turning into a frog, the frog turning into a prince. And what they call these reptilian bloodlines, which I'm going to come to, are the royal bloodlines because they are the bloodlines of the gods. And of course, in the East, the dragon is a massive central point in their imagery. You find around the world this theme of part serpent, part human, all over the place, the duality of them. And this is another common thing that you find, the serpent eating a human or eating a human baby. All over the place, all over the world, and you see it on Alfa Romeo even. And note the crown. Note how often the crown is used, because these are considered royal bloodlines, these particular serpent archontic human bloodlines, which I'm going to come to. And when you look at the Hollywood and televisual portrayals around the world of non-human entities in reptilian form, they are incredibly the same or very, very similar to what people have described who've interacted with these entities.
And a lot of spiritual practices talk about how to expand your awareness, and drugs potentially could be expanding your awareness as well into a multidimensional kind of thing.
So we have a visible universe, that which we can see and bring into some kind of form, and we have an invisible universe, which is everything else. And the visible universe is so tiny, it is funny. This is mainstream science. They talk about dark energy, dark matter. I see that slightly differently, but the principle's the same, what you can see and what you can't see. So you have this massive area of stuff they say exists in this universe, which we can't see. You then have light, electromagnetic spectrum, etc., which is 0.005% of what they say exists in this universe. And visible light, which is the only frequency band that we can decode into a visual reality, is a fraction of the 0.005%. We have an expert. What we know is, what? Madness. So this is the visible spectrum within the electromagnetic spectrum. Look at it, it's tiny. And that's all that we can see in what we call the world. You say to most people, can you see everything in the space you're looking at? Oh yeah, mate. You can't see that much of it. So We are in a frequency band. We call it the world, we call it reality, but there are other frequency bands interpenetrating this one, like radio stations and television stations, sharing the same space. And what you perceive is what you can decode, what you are decoding. And so through the body we perceive in a visual sense what the body can decode, which is this little band of frequencies. You go outside the body, now you're perceiving much greater frequencies, and thus your reality changes. If you wish to understand the universe, said Tesla, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. Exactly. So, our point of attention holds us in this reality unless we're open to consciousness. Because what happens is if you come into this reality, this visible light reality, and you hold that connection to consciousness beyond this reality, you have everything you need. You have the information coming through the senses to give you a fix on what's happening around you, but you have the big picture that's outside of this reality, that's not programmed by its perceptions and its sense of limitation, which can then feed you insight, inspiration, intuition, to give you insight beyond that which you are directly experiencing. But you get disconnected from that, big problem. You're now trying to get your entire fix on reality from the reality you are in. And if a network controls that reality and that information that's coming at you, they are going to program your sense of reality for life. So, most people, and it is changing, hallelujah, brother and sister, but it's still the vast majority are caught in the program which they think is real and they think is all there is to see. And so in this world, there are people in the program who are only getting that sense of reality, and then there are people who've opened their minds and opened their hearts, come to that big time, who are accessing another sense of reality, and these people call these people mad and crazy and dangerous. Yes, they are. They're dangerous to the prevailing program.
So that is the first one where we're actually, instead of, every step up until now has been like a straight line, a straight shot through the physical world that we're familiar with. Multidimensional now is a break, a deviation from that, where we're actually expanding into different dimensions. And I totally believe that's possible.